The Sensual Spirit versus the Holy Spirit Part 2. My previous video was cut out on me, so I'm going to finish it right here. What was I talking about? I was talking about how throughout the last 2,000 years, how the so-called white people could have really, truly established their ways and their rights and their constitution in our lives. Just history, just labeling facts, just saying things out loud in which label and describe how things could be set up the way they are currently. Actually, I know they are. I know what I'm saying is, I want to say 90% fact. Because like I said, or like I've been saying, it ain't over until I win. It ain't over until I win. So until we see them all the way down and powerless and unable to ruin our lives anymore, that's when we know we've won. We've won. Until then, everything is just a process and or a step. We ain't out of hell yet until we out of hell. That's just the reality there. So I was saying within these 21 centuries here, we're currently in the 21st century. Supposedly the 21st century. Why is it even called the 21st century? You want to know why? Because from what I'm gathering, they expect 100 years after the setting of the current 100 years we are in to continue. Meaning, since we are in the 21st century right now, that means we would be in the 2000s. The 20th century would be the 1900s. The 19th century will be the 1800s. The 18th century will be considered as the 1700s, and so on and so forth. They're always expecting to rule for another 100 years after they rule for a previous 100 years with their chaos. So in other words, they plan to spread chaos, destruction, and disgust all throughout our world forever. Long story short. Because here's the thing, when we actually get to 2100, if their rule is still at play, then they'll call it the 22nd century because they're expecting to have another 100 years of chaos to reign and rule and be in charge of our lives. You follow what I'm saying? So I was dropping some details regarding what all may have occurred in these past 2,000 years. In regards to what gave them their abilities to have their ways established into our lives. And I was calculating, and I was coming to a revelation in the process of it, because at first I was thinking to myself what Christ saved us from when he entered into our spiritual realm and pushed the negative, foul evil that was plaguing our mind, heart spaces into the physical for us to be able to deal with it, see it, and deal with it accordingly. I was originally thinking whatever that entity was, that demon was, is the reason why the continents were split, the reason why we lost so many people, a third of the entire world. In other words, I thought the story of Revelation was the end-all be-all to label and describe how these so-called white people worldwide were able to get their heads up upon our lives within all 195 countries of the world. Meaning, how did specifically and exactly within the time that they've been allowed to exist, how did the so-called white people, how did they gain the upper hand to enslave us as they have us enslaved to their ways today? I don't like to give them power. I'm just stating what's going on. They have us subjugated to their laws on their pieces of paper. They have us subjugated to their feelings on their pieces of paper. They made us prideful to follow and obey the laws they have on their feelings on their pieces of paper. They made us prideful for these laws they have on their piece of paper. For these feelings. They're not even laws. They're just their feelings in which they had planned and took all their emotional time to draw out and label and describe how they wish for us to live our lives. You follow what I'm saying? Then they made us prideful for the stupidity. They made us prideful for stupidity. Especially within the last 2,000 years. Especially within the last 2,000 years, they made us all prideful for stupidity. And then they set us on stupidity autopilot. Well, what if we switched it to awareness autopilot? Moving forward, here's what I was getting at in the previous video before it cut out. due to the hatred deriving from this city within our psyche, due to the war desires deriving from this city in our psyche, and due to these division ideologies deriving from this city in our psyches, and also due to our desires for murderous intent deriving from this city within our psyches, things like continental splits happened. And within those continental splits, due to how much tyranny the so-called white people were spreading throughout our world, all throughout that time, within the past 2,000 years, millions of our kind, millions, actually billions of our people, billions, were unalived in that 2,000-year time period. And due to how many of our people were unalived in the time period, we didn't have too many guardians or elders left to fight. They must have got their hands on something within the early 2000s that gave them the ability to control technology the way they do to split the continents apart. Because they got it today, which is what they're doing to Africa. What's happening to Africa, tectonic plates splitting apart, that's not natural. That is their work. That is their action. That is their doing. You follow what I'm saying? You can believe whatever you want, though, of course. Now, due to them, here's what I was getting at. Due to them splitting the plates apart with whatever technology they used to split it apart, we didn't have too many guardians or too many protectors left after all of their destruction and chaos and murder. So, our people, on the lands that they were causing their tyranny on, were just migrating all throughout the world, migrating across the seas and across the other continents and across the other islands, so to speak. Because each continent in reality is just one specific island. I heard my brother say he doesn't necessarily believe that we came from one continent of Pangea. That's okay. Believe whatever you want, my great brother. But from what I'm comprehending, the logic that I'm going to go off of to make my story make more sense, we had one continent at first. It was labeled and described as Pangea. This is what I'm going to go off of. You don't have to go off of it, of course. I respect that you can choose whatever you wish to think. I truly respect that. So, I'm still going to go off of the idea of Pangea, though. And within the last 2,000 years of this here 2025 that we have been in, the so-called oppressive people, with the devil or the source of all evil moving to and throughout them all, caused these continents to split apart into 5 different plates. And then our people who were being attacked by the tyranny that were on those plates, on the continents before they were split or during their splitting, a lot of them migrated to these places. They migrated to those continents that were split apart. And here's what happened ultimately. The so-called white people who were working for the devil or working for the source of all evil, they followed them around everywhere and colonized them where they stood. Remember, everything that these people do is to destroy all of nature. And it just so happens that we as the melanated people, the children of melanation in which we are aspects and or constituents of all of nature. And we just so happen to be one of the strongest key factors in nature, which is why they target us with the most with their bills and their laws and their policies and their stupidity. So, now what I was ultimately getting at before the video cut off on me was how we get out of this. How do we beat this? Simple. You want to get out of hell? Stop being stupid. Because the ultimate reality is, stupidity is what is driving you all to do stupid things. Awareness of the actual self eliminates stupidity. Awareness of your actual capabilities eliminates your desires to commit the war capabilities. Awareness of who you truly art prevents the devil from telling you who you should be in your lives. The ultimate goal, once again, as I said in the previous video, is to push everything foul within our spirits towards the apana, the energy in which we no longer need or want, the outgoing breath. You follow what I'm saying? And once everything foul in the spirit is pushed to the apana, details real quick. Once everything is pushed to the apana, we'll finally be able to see these things for what they truly are and be able to deal with them accordingly in the physical. Because as long as the devil's city is established in our psyches, the only thing we're going to see is war, hatred, division, and stagnance. So, Now, these are the final details that I wanted to admit before I close the video out last time, but before it cut out on me. So, this city that was established by the source of evil in our psyches, as within, so throughout. There's also a city built into the physical world due to the influence, due to the influence from the source of all evil moving to and through the white people, and then the white people moving into and through the melanated people, was able to be built even not just in our psyche, but also too in our physical world. Which means if we destroy the city in the psyche, we will simultaneously make the proper decisions to destroy the city in the physical. Babylon meaning this entrenchment city, this influence, this indoctrination city within our psyches can be labeled and described as Babylon. And I gave details in the previous video as to what they were. But in this video right here, to close it out, I want to mention the energies in which power each pillar. I talked about the 9 deadly sins. Now I want to talk about some details regarding the 9 deadly sins and what will happen once the pillars are destroyed, the grounds are destroyed, what those energies are going to do next, and how they're going to be for us to label and describe in the physical. Now, 7 belief system pillars, 7 deadly sins, 4 corners, 2 outside of the 4-corner spirit prison. The 7 deadly sin principalities, they give each of these pillars their abilities to stand up within this 4-corner spirit prison. And the principalities of the 4-corner spirit prison are as follows. To the left corner, vanity; top, jealousy once again; bottom, sloth; to the right, wrath, greed, gluttony, and lust. And then the 2 outside are fear and ignorance. Within the 4 corners, though, and also to the 2 outside, you got racism, which wrath is shown the most in. Then you have, this is what I wanted to admit in the last video, you got feminism, which jealousy is shown the most in. Then you have the foul sexual orientation, which vanity is shown the most in, or pride, false pride. Then you have the 4th belief system pillar, the nerd and or geek culture. Nerd, neglected earth realm dreamers and or geeks, gentlemen evading everyday knowledge. Stop evading everyday knowledge. This one is primarily governed by the principality of sloth. And then you have the 5th belief system pillar, the gangsters. This pillar is primarily governed by wrath. Then you have the 6th one, the tribes. This one is primarily governed by colonization. I'm not going to say lust. Colonization. It's almost the same type of sin when you think about it. Because there is a very foul, feminine spirit pushing this here city into our psyche in the first place. And then you have the final belief system pillar, the religions. This one is primarily governed by gluttony. Now, all these belief system pillars, all 7 of those foul principalities are what give each of them their strength to stand. It just so happens that the foul principalities I mentioned for them, those show the most within each belief system pillar. You follow what I'm saying? And the thing is, once we gain awareness of our soul king and our spirit queen and how they work to and throughout us all, as well as the army in which they have, the generals, meaning the devils of Hinduism, and then the Orishas, which are like, they're all generals in my opinion in the spirit. Because I consider Oya as the queen of all queens, or the representation of the Akasha chakra. That's what I call it, the Akasha chakra. Akasha is ether, or prana, or spirit, or breath, or air. Or the source of air, the source of prana. Our natural divine senses derive from prana. Once we gain awareness of this here knowledge, consciousness of the pranas, in other words, consciousness of our life principles, consciousness of our vital principles, the enemy's entrenchment, the source of all evil, in which wants to place and or strengthen or preserve this city in our psyches, because they're looking to preserve the damages they put in there. It will no longer be able to be preserved. Remember, whatever this force does to you damage-wise, they are looking to preserve all the damages they have done unto thee. You follow what I'm saying? Awareness of self, knowledge of self. Long story short, I'm repeating myself now, prevents them from being able to do it any longer. The more knowledge of self you gain, the faster you rise out of hell. The faster you rise out of hell, the faster we all go home. Home liberation. That's the main thing I wanted to tell you for this video to close it out. Awareness. Flipping ignorance to awareness. And flipping fear into courage is how we destroy the source of all evils, internal Babylonian city. Then as within, so throughout. Once we destroy the city internal, the first step is to gain awareness of who you are. Second step is to resurrect into who you are. Second step is to reincarnate, not resurrect, reincarnate into who you are. Third step is to resurrect as who you are. And the final step is to establish what you are into your own reality. The soul's grounds. Reawakening, reincarnation, resurrection, reestablishment. Spiritual reawakening first. Soulful reincarnation second. Even though the soul is first, it's still we're in the spirit, so we got to have the spiritual reawakening first, then the soul reincarnation second, then the soul spirit resurrection, and then the soul spirit reestablishment. And then once we go higher up into this idea, we'll have what we can be labeled and described as a cosmic reawakening. Then we'll have what can be labeled and described as a celestial reincarnation. Then we can have what can be labeled and described as a heavenly resurrection. And then finally, a nirvanic reestablishment. Cosmic reawakening, celestial reincarnation, heavenly resurrection, nirvanic reestablishment. Just going to stop at nothing to bring you full awareness of who and or what you art truly, so we can have what we need to beat the source of all evil's army. And this concludes, these words right here, this video right here concludes the sensual spirit, which is our senses, or the prana, the source of prana, or the prana source itself. Since the prana is the source of self, source of air itself, our senses derive from the air, not the sins of the government. Our senses derive from the air, not the government. Our senses derive from the air, not the government. Versus what can be labeled and described as the Holy Spirit, or the source of evil, or the source of all immoral authority. My army, the spiritual army, versus the devil's army. All it's going to take is awareness and a reawakening to beat this demon. This should be nothing for us. The Holy Spirit established itself into our spiritual realm as this here Babylon city, the four-corner mental spirit prison. I want to put this detail in the video as well. I missed one detail about the 4 Exodus keywords. I want to say it again. The 4 Exodus keywords, they're going to be the keys in which unlock the gates of heaven, the 7 gates of heaven. And how is this going to happen? By simply bringing you awareness, full, absolute awareness. It's going to help bring you awareness of what the chakras are and how they work. The 7 major chakras and how they work. The 7 gates and characteristical spirits, and the 4 Exodus keywords. The 4 Exodus keywords are going to help bring strong and powerful awareness to how the 7 gates and to how the 7 chakra gates work to and throughout us all. They're going to help. That's why I call them the 4 Exodus keywords. I wanted to mention that. Awareness of the 7 chakra gates are how we unlock the 7 chakra gates. Awareness of the 7 chakra gates and how they work is how we unlock the chakra gates and how they work. Simply just gaining awareness of them. course, the acceptance and the application, or the reincarnation and the resurrection of the chakra gates as well, those are going to be important to apply. And the 4 Exodus keywords will also help you perform those tasks as well. So in other words, the 4 Exodus keywords can bring you awareness of what the chakras are. The 4 Exodus keywords, which are morals, principles, standards, and character, morals, principles, standards, and character, morals, principles, standards, and character. Those 4 Exodus keywords can help you accept what the 7 chakras are. And then the 4 Exodus keywords can also help you apply, resurrect to what the 7 chakra gates are, the 7 gates of heaven, in other words. And that's all I wanted to say for this video here. This has been the sensual spirit versus the Holy Spirit. Pretty much air versus sin. Which belief system pillar are you going to accept? Are you going to accept your one natural divine belief system pillar now that you have full awareness of it? Or are you going to keep on accepting the government's? Our natural belief system pillar is of peace, love, unity, and advancement. Their artificial belief system pillar is of war, hatred, division, and stagnance. Shalom, shalom, shalom. May these words reach you and help encourage you to be the God you truly are, versus shaming you from being the God you truly are, as the oppressive body does night and day. Until this works completely, you finally get a chance to accept it and finally take the initiative to apply it, I will just keep on praying towards you, every single one of you, my dear family. Peace, love, unity, and advancement to you all.